Hey guys, it looks like we still have a few people joining today. But since it's 1 p.m., I'm just gonna start introducing the topic. So I know we are obviously all here because we have something in common. Your guys' ATS Google Hire is sunsetting at the end of next month. This year has certainly thrown a lot at everybody, so I'm sure transitioning from an applicant tracking system isn't something you're particularly excited about, but over here at Workable, we've done a lot of work when it comes to, understanding what Google Hire customers are really looking for in their new ATS and just making that transition as easy as possible. With that, I want to leave it to me and my colleague Jeremy to just introduce ourselves briefly before we hop into the agenda. So Jeremy, do you want to kick it off?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Rachel. Hi, everybody. Pleasure to meet you. My name is Jeremy Davison, and I'm the Regional Sales Manager here at Workable. Been here for about 3 years, and I come from a background in hiring and recruiting as well. So this is what I'm most passionate about.
Awesome. And my name is Rachel Minch. I am a senior account executive over here at Workable. I've been here for about a year and a half, and I'm excited to go through everything today with you guys. So next thing we're going to do is just quickly cover the agenda. I know we're still waiting for a few people to pop in. First and foremost, we're just going to briefly share a few things that we've learned through our conversations with Google Hire customers over the last year or so since that sunset was announced. Second, we'll spend some time exploring the product so you guys can see exactly what this looks like in action with Workable. And then, of course, we're going to leave some time for questions. There's a little Q&A box down at the bottom of your guys' webinar screen. So at any point in time, if you want to pop in any questions, we'll make sure we get those answered and addressed at the end. All right, so let's actually take a quick poll before we jump in. Jeremy and I are interested in knowing what your guys' top priority is when it comes to switching from Google Hire to a different applicant tracking system. So a little poll should be popping up for everybody if you guys just want to select the answer. And then we'll just wait for the results to roll in. Perfect. So it looks like 100% of people said the integration with G Suite was their top priority. Jeremy, I don't know about you, but I don't think this is unusual at all. I think most people ended up choosing Google Hire for that integration, right? So obviously it's your number one priority moving forward. Rest assured, Workable has the same exact two-way sync with G Suite as Google Hire did. So anything you guys are doing in the system is going to show up in your inbox and outbox and vice versa if you're changing calendar events or anything like that. There's that nice two-way updating functionality. Let's actually go to the next slide. I know you guys are all really concerned with the G Suite integration. I'm sure as a second priority, some of these things might line up. This little pie chart just breaks down basically what we've seen over the past year through like hundreds of conversations with people coming off of Google Hire. G Suite integration was, of course, important, widely requested. I think the biggest thing ultimately, though, was ease of use. Again, that's another big reason that a lot of people ended up going with Google Hire. That was top of mind. They wanted something that was going to be really simple for people to use, not only just the recruiter, but hiring team, candidates, everybody across the board. It needed to be intuitive, and who better to turn to than Google for something intuitive. So when looking for a new system, I think that definitely has been probably the most prevalent. Attracting more candidates and then in turn being able to scan these candidates at scale came in as top for like some of the other priorities, especially in more recent months with coronavirus. People have been a lot more vocal and interested in, how exactly Workable is going to help them conduct recruitment more efficiently, screen candidates now that in a lot of cases we're seeing an uptick in candidates, some of them underqualified because of that rising unemployment rate. Jeremy, anything else that you want to add?
Yeah, no, I think that covers it really well. I think that my biggest takeaway is that most of the folks on Google Hire really like Google Hire. If they didn't have to switch, they probably wouldn't. And so what they're looking for is in their next system is something that is going to have a lot of the same characteristics, a lot of similarities in terms of the way it looks, the way it feels, how that Google integration works. So yeah, that's a big reason why folks have been drawn to Workable, is because we do have a lot of those commonalities.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. Remember, guys, to be putting questions in that little Q&A box if you have any. They'll come right to me and Jeremy, so we can make sure to address everything at the end here. Moving on, I just wanted to quickly go through this little case study for EI Cubed. Basically, they were a Google Hire customer that recently came over to Workable, and they were interested in a lot of the things that we just talked through. So for them, they had ambitious growth goals and they wanted to hire a lot of people really, really fast. Biggest challenge was they didn't have a dedicated HR department. So implementation, support, ease of use, those were all really, really big priorities, including data transfer from Google Hire. And then, of course, boosting brand recognition, casting a super wide net. They were able to implement Workable across 3 different offices without an HR team in less than 2 weeks. So that included data transfer from Workable, where we map everything over to the correct fields. You guys can pick up right where you left off. And in terms of increasing qualified candidates, they were able to see new candidates in the pipeline within the first week and a half. So really easy, smooth transition. Google Hire is very, very simple to work with, which makes the process not a nightmare on anyone's side. And for you guys, we do all the heavy lifting when it comes to the data transfer. We'll walk through it in a little bit more detail later on, but you simply pass over an Excel spreadsheet to us and we take it from there. Now, I think it is time to hop into the product and see what some of this stuff looks like firsthand. So what I'm going to do is share my screen with you, and I'm going to walk through the first portion of Workable. Jeremy's going to take over when it comes to interacting with candidates, collaborating with each other, but let me kick it off. So hopefully everybody can see my screen at this point. You should see something that says Stardust. What we're looking at here is essentially your dashboard or your homepage. So when you log into Workable, this is going to be organized by what we refer to as hiring pipelines. Each unique role that you guys are hiring for is going to have its own pipeline. That'll contain information like job title, department, location, then of course the different stages in your recruitment process. I'm sure these stages change from one role to the next. You guys can completely customize these based off of whatever your process may be. We'll tell you, is this job published? Where is it published to? And then just a quick statistic on how many candidates you've attracted in the last day or so. The idea being that when anybody hops in here, they can feel good by seeing, great, I've got one person in offer at this time. Candidate flow looks normal. I don't feel like I need to make any tweaks. Now, this view will look different, of course, depending upon who's logging into the system. So recruiters, for example, you're going to have visibility into absolutely every role. Whereas if it's a hiring manager logging in, they're just going to see roles they're specifically responsible for. You can customize this if you want to filter by department, sub-department, location, star roles that are particularly important. So they're stuck up here at the top, whatever's easiest for you. Next thing I really want to get into is job creation. One of the big functions of an ATS. So when it comes to creating a job, you're going to start by hitting this blatantly obvious create a new job button up here at the top. For the sake of time, I'm just going to pop into head of account management. But when we're creating a job, it's always the same left to right 5-step process. So first tab asks us for a few basics like job title, department, location, description. Now you guys can import descriptions over from Google Hire, use them again and again. You can create them from scratch here. Workable also has a little template library. So this is 750 different job description templates preloaded into your Workable account. They're all designed, 1, to be SEO optimized, so to help with your performance on job boards. 2, they're designed to be non-discriminatory, so they contain things like gender neutral language. You guys can check off what you think is applicable, pull it in, and then of course edit it just like a Microsoft Word document. Make sure it aligns with your employer branding. I think these sort of templates are one of the things that make transitioning from Google Hire to Workable really easy. We have a lot of built-in email templates, job templates, interview templates, all that are editable, customizable. So you guys aren't necessarily starting from scratch in any sense. Next piece is the application form. So when candidates are applying, what do you guys need to know? On the left is how you'll make these customizations. Over here on the right, as I'm making changes, this is just going to update in real time. So you can see the candidate's perspective on mobile, just obviously big in 2020, and then of course on desktop. Now, making these changes is as easy as just toggling some things on or off. Maybe I need a resume. If you want to customize questions, that'll happen down here at the bottom. There's no limit to the amount of custom questions that you guys are including on an application form. They can be different for every single role. They can be the same. There's a lot of different formats that these can take. And from an efficiency standpoint, my favorite one to point out is this yes or no, especially in this COVID world when we've got a lot of applicants like we were talking about. This is just going to enable us to disqualify candidates right off the bat who aren't meeting those most basic qualifications. So maybe we want to ask, are you authorized to work in the US? We're not sponsoring any visas at this point. Somebody says no, they're filtered out. You guys don't waste that time. Next piece is the Find Candidates tab. So arguably most important tab in the system by far. This is all the different ways that Workable is going to help get you in front of relevant people, both active and passive. So let's start with active candidates, those people that are crawling around job boards, looking for positions. First and foremost, it starts with connecting to your website. So just like Google Hire, we're going to establish this connection to your career site at the beginning of your relationship. That way, anytime you're publishing a job, taking down a job, making a spelling update, it's just automatically updated. There's nothing manual required of you. And from the candidate's perspective, it's going to look something like this. So this is one of our current clients' hire view. And when I come to their career page, we can see the connection between Workable and their website exists right here. We're mirroring their branding, their color scheme. It looks really nicely integrated. If candidates are interested in applying, they're just going to hit the role that interests them, and it directs them right to that custom job description that HireVue created in their Workable account. I'll do my quick read. Wonderful, hit apply. Here's the custom application form. Especially if you customize questions, you don't want your application process to be long and laborious. That leads to candidate drop-off. So we try and make this as easy as possible for candidates. If you guys have a LinkedIn recruiter seat, you'll see candidates will have this easy apply option with LinkedIn. If you don't, that's okay. There's still a super simple way for them to apply by just uploading a resume. Workable is going to parse this resume, pull out everything that we can. Of course, they're not going to be able to bypass custom questions, but it will fill out basics like first name, last name, email. I'll submit. Immediately when I submit, I get an email confirmation with a copy of this application, letting me know that everything went through okay. I can relax. And then depending on where you guys are, we are EEO compliant, so that optional survey will pop up for any US applicants. We're also fully GDPR compliant. We can walk through a couple of those options in more detail later, but super simple to deploy a fully compliant application process through Workable. It's going to be the same sentiment when it comes to sharing to social media. So if you want to connect any of the company's social media pages, just like we did with the website, we'll set that up one time. That way, all you're going to have to do is click a button right from here, and this job posting goes out automatically. There's no manual going to LinkedIn every single time you're posting a job. For the free job boards, there's 18 that we partner with in the US. The idea here is you're clicking a button and it's just going out to all the big ones that you would expect, like Indeed, LinkedIn, Google, Glassdoor, ZipRecruiter. So very simple to cast a nice wide net. About 52% of all applicants that come through Workable come from that page alone. So that's a good free real estate. If you're paying for any job boards, we can integrate premium accounts. Like if you have an account with Indeed or LinkedIn, that way you'll have access to these job slots directly through Workable, or you always have the option to purchase them on a one-off basis. So ZipRecruiter in this example, I just plopped into my little cart over here. It's like I'm shopping on Amazon. And what I'm going to do is check out, goes right on my Workable invoice. I don't need an account with ZipRecruiter. I don't need a credit card on file. It's just designed to make things a little bit easier. This is going to be the same price point as if you went through them directly. So it keeps everything in one place. And then of course, from like a reporting standpoint, you have all of your different candidate sources in the applicant tracking system. You can really get a good idea of where it makes sense to spend your money and time. When it comes to external agencies, if you guys are working with them in any capacity, we can invite them right into the system. It's as easy as just name and email address. From their perspective, they'll get this email and then instructions on how to submit candidates. So Google Hire doesn't have any way to collaborate with agencies through the system. That's one of the big differences. Agencies can submit candidates right from this email by replying to it or logging into the back end of your Workable account. Don't worry, they can't see anything but upload candidates, so they're not going to poach anybody from you. But we'll detect duplicates. We'll take into account the date, the time, who's making the submission. That way there's never a question of who you owe money to at the end of the day. We do also have a referrals portal, and how this referrals portal actually works is, let me pull up my own email so you can see it from an employee perspective. But essentially what we do is we attach the referrals portion to the ATS. So you don't have every single person digging around in your applicant tracking system, but anytime you're posting a job through your Workable account, all of your employees automatically get an email like this one. Hey, we're hiring for this role. This is the incentive. Do you know anybody? From my perspective as an employee, it's really easy for me to now refer. I'm going to click view and refer, and it will take me right into my individual referrals portal with Workable. You'll notice I don't have to log in or anything. It's just going to recognize my email address. Again, we don't want to make this difficult. We definitely don't want to discourage any recruitment help. And it takes me right to that job. I can also see all of the different roles that we're currently recruiting for. And it allows me to do three things. So I can apply myself, functions as an internal job board. You guys can promote upward mobility. I can, of course, refer somebody, and you can customize questions you might want to know about referrals or internal applicants. That way you have all this information right off the bat. You're not going back and forth with, how do you know this person? Do they know they're being referred? Last but not least, really easy for me to connect to my individual social media pages and basically just cast a super wide net with a click of a button. So you guys customize and control like the copy, the photo that's going out with these, but essentially I'll share it. I'll say, I love working here. Everyone should apply. If anybody uses my link, I'm notified via email. So each employee has their own unique link. That helps us track on the back end who submitted who. It also allows me to answer those referral questions about them when I get the email notification. From your guys' perspective, back in the applicant tracking system, you'll have visibility with our referrals report into what channels are doing particularly well for referrals. And then most importantly, if you offer an incentive, we'll automatically tally up any rewards that are due. You can filter by the relevant pay period and make sure you're paying people out accordingly. The last piece of the Find Candidates tab, probably the coolest part, is our built-in sourcing functionality. So Workable is a little bit unique in the ATS world. We have our own built-in sourcing tool. It's somewhat like a LinkedIn Recruiter. Of course, we have a two-way sync with LinkedIn Recruiter if you guys have that for your sourcing capabilities. But essentially what we're able to do is with this AI recruiter button, we'll read and analyze your custom job description that you guys created in the system. We're going to create a super long, super targeted Boolean string, and then automatically suggest 50 candidates that we feel are a really good fit for the position based off of your specific criteria. So what we do is we aggregate publicly available data points from all over the web into these candidate snapshots. We're going to put them right into the sourced bucket of your pipeline. You'll see they're going to be flagged as suggested by Workable. And we do differentiate between sourced and applied, so you always know how to follow up with candidates appropriately. You don't want to email them saying, thanks for applying. That'll be confusing. But from here, if I'm pressed for time, I can select all. I'm going to shoot them all a quick email inviting them to chat about a new job opportunity. You guys, again, have complete control over these custom email templates. But from their perspective, it looks personal. From my perspective, this took 2 seconds. Now that we've covered the Find Candidates tab, I want to quickly just run through these last two before I turn it over to Jeremy. Team members, very simple. We're just adding anybody who's going to help with this head of account management job. So I'll have suggestions based off of the department, the location, and then of course I can add anybody else in from this little drop-down list. You guys have complete control over what people can see and do in the platform. There's 6 different types of Workable users that just correlate again with what these people can see and do. Last but not least are what we refer to as interview kits. So again, a little different than Google Hire. In Google Hire, if you guys are using these, you probably know that you get 1 interview kit or 1 scorecard per job. So just 1 set of questions for head of account management. we break it down a bit more in Workable. So every stage of your recruiting process for head of account management can have its own unique scorecard. So let's say for the phone screen stage, I'm going to add an interview kit. These are the questions I ask on every single phone screen. So they'll pre-populate. You guys can save templates if you need to in the system. But the idea is you make these as long or as simple as you want to. From the candidate's perspective, it's always going to be a fair and consistent process. And then for you and your team, you can quickly pull these up, fill it out. This is what it looks like on Workable's mobile app. I think Jeremy's going to fill one out with you in just a moment, but save it in the system. All of the feedback is centralized and it is designed to be easy so people actually put it in. There's a couple other things. If you guys are working with any assessment providers, we integrate with lots and lots of different assessment tests. You can initiate those right through the system. Results are going to flow right back in. And the last thing I wanted to bring up, especially because it's actually free for anybody switching off of Google Hire for the first 3 months, if you guys want to try it out, are one-way video interviews. Now, I'm not sure if anybody here is familiar with one-way video interviews, but the way that these work essentially is instead of doing a two-way video interview like a traditional one where you hop on Zoom with the candidate, what you're doing is creating a set of questions that is going to be sent to the candidate that they can then answer on their own time. These have become increasingly popular because from the candidate's perspective, especially right now, like maybe they're home with kids all day, maybe they're working another 9 to 5, they just might not have time to hop on the phone for 30 minutes. This allows them to do it on their time, put their best foot forward. And from your guys' perspective, you have a lot of candidates to screen. I think what I hear most often is within the first 5 minutes of a phone screen, I know if this person is a good fit or not, and I'm stuck on the phone for 30 minutes. So to get around that, you'll customize this. This is an option to introduce yourself, set a little deadline. Maybe we want this done in 3 days. A lot of people will actually insert a video instead of introducing themselves via text. That way it's a little bit more personal. It's somewhat like interacting with somebody on Zoom. And then you'll just pop in a few questions here, maybe give us a 30-second elevator pitch. You can decide how much time do I want to give them to think, answer, how many takes can they have. So you control exactly what this is going to look like from the candidate's perspective. Send it off through Workable. They get it. They can complete this on their phone or their desktop, and the video responses flow right back into the Workable system. So it's designed to just increase efficiency for everybody. With that, I think Jeremy's going to hop in. He'll finish up explaining video interviews. I'm sure you guys have some questions with those. And he's going to walk you through collaboration and interacting with candidates. So Jeremy, I'm going to stop sharing and you can take control.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Rachel. I appreciate it. And also thank you so much for all the great questions that we've got so far. We'll be covering all of those kind of throughout and then after. But just to kind of reiterate, we do have a big promotion going on right now for anyone that's switching over from Google Hire. So first of all, free data migration, that's going to be included. And we've at this point migrated over 100 companies. And so we're pretty well adept at how the data flows in. And then also that video interviews, we're giving it away for 3 months. And I'll dive deeper into that. But I think as we continue to think about how Workable is very similar to Google Hire, I'd like to share with you a little bit more on how that Google integration works. That was like the very number one topic that everyone wanted to cover. So as Rachel kind of highlighted, we're going to be going out to a lot of different sources such as job boards. We have some sourcing tools, and candidates are all going to flow into the applied stage if they're applying themselves, or the source stage if you've sourced them in yourself. So when you think about what a candidate profile looks like, we've designed this to look very similar to Google Hire. In fact, our VP of product, his name's Michaelis Rakakis, and he came from Google. And there's just a lot of similarities that you'll find between Google and Workable. So a lot of companies, that's part of the reason why they're choosing to go with us. But yeah, just to show you the candidate profile, it looks like a social wall. So you can see their header up top. You can see their timeline. This has every action, every communication point, every email that you have sent out, every calendar invitation, there's that two-way sync with email and also calendar. Everything's logged here. It's in chronological order, and it's time-stamped down to the second. So you can see that here. You can see if she's applied to previous roles. You can see her work experience, her background, those skills matches or keyword matches. So very similar to how Google Hire does it. You're able to set up those keywords, and it's able to parse out and find those keyword matches. Instead of highlighting it on the resume, it's actually going to pull it out. So it makes it even easier there. You also have contact details and social media profiles. So everything's here in one place. And then you probably don't need me to tell you what all these action item buttons do up top. This is how you email. It's got the direct sync with your Google email. We have, this is how you would schedule an event. It's got the direct two-way sync with your Google Calendar, text. So we'll go through these kind of individually. And let's take a look at Bertrand here. And let's say he's got a really good profile, seems like a good fit. So maybe the first thing we want to do is shoot him out an email, inviting him to maybe set up a phone call to talk more. So what we can do is click this email candidate icon, and this is going to access your Google email right here from the system. When you email the candidate, it's going to appear to the candidate as if it's coming directly from your Google account. They won't even know Workable's involved at all. And then all that communication back and forth is going to sync back into Workable. But as you're sending it out, we have a bunch of templates for you to choose from. So let's just say we wanted to arrange a phone call. Well, that's great. You can do that. And then one thing that Workable does in addition to Google Hire is we also have this self-scheduling functionality. So this is going to connect directly with your Google Calendar. And this is really cool. It works like Calendly, if you're familiar with that. And you can say, you can tell the candidate, you know, book on my calendar, or go ahead and book on my hiring manager, my colleague's calendar. And then what you can do is you can give some specifications. So maybe you don't want to do interviews on Mondays and Tuesdays, and maybe you only want to do these interviews in the afternoon. So you can do that. And when you send off the email, the candidate's going to see only your open availability. So if you have a 3 o'clock meeting on Thursday, won't even show up as an option. So it completely eliminates all that back and forth. And it's you know, going back to the question earlier about the candidate experience, it's much better for the candidate experience. So that back and forth can be frustrating, not only for you as a HR professional, or the candidate as well. And then the other thing that's cool is that the use case might be that you have quite a few shortlisted candidates that you want to set up these types of calls with. And so you can select those shortlisted candidates, and you can send a bulk email with that self-scheduling link out to all of those candidates. And then if Alex was to book, say, 2 o'clock on Friday, that won't even show up as an option for Bertrand and Cindy and Dolan. So it's a live sync with your calendar, which is great. So that self-scheduling works really well for the kind of more simple, like one-on-one interviews. I think one of the things that people loved about Google Hire is just how easy it is to schedule with the more complex interviews too. So let's just say we're scheduling somewhat of an on-site. Sometimes we're going to be scheduling panel interviews where there's quite a few folks that are going to be joining. Maybe you'd like to select one of the meeting rooms. So this is, again, reading your Google Calendar. It's seeing which of the meeting rooms in your office are available right now, and you can go ahead and select those. So very easy there. We also have an integration with Zoom and Google Hangouts. So if it's not an on-site, if it's going to be kind of like that two-way video interview, you can just click the box, add in that Zoom link, and it's really easy for that as well. Sometimes in terms of the complexity of the interview, you might have a multi-slot. So 30 minutes with Eduardo, and then 30 minutes with Natalie right after that. So you can, the calendar can handle that type of complexity, and it's really smart too. It's actually reading you and your colleagues' Google Calendar real time, And you can see right here, if everything looks good, no conflict, it's going to let us know that. If there is some type of conflict and Natalie might be busy during that time, it's going to show us that as well. So we can actually view in the calendar. It's going to take us to a singular view of everyone's Google calendars. There's going to be, it's color coded. So you can see everyone's calendars in one view without ever having to leave the Workable platform. It's really easy to find a day, find a time that works with everyone's schedules. Just like that, we've eliminated the conflict, and we can go ahead and send the invitation off to the candidate. So not only will it go to everyone's Google calendars, but there's a two-way sync with that too. So a lot of other systems out there, it's not two-way. So not only can it go to the Google Calendar, but if you did need to make a change, like say the candidate moved the interview, they needed to book it for the following week, something like that, you can make that change directly on your Google Calendar, and that will sync back into Workable. So it's a true two-way sync for email and calendar. And then also going back to the candidate experience question that came up earlier, the candidate is going to get this beautifully branded email with your logo, all the details, who they're going to be meeting with, and either the Zoom link or the Hangout link or a Google map where they can easily get directions to the office. So could not be easier for the candidate. And then going back to the candidate experience again, we have a native texting tool. This is something that we recently developed. Obviously, it's not something that Google has, but this is native to Workable. And a lot of our clients are using this as a way to remind candidates of upcoming interviews, or potentially you could use it to just encourage candidate engagement and response time, and just reduce that time to hire. So the way that it works, you just click the icon, up pops this little chat bubble here where you can type in the text message. It's going to be a shared local phone number that's attached to this job. So every job will have its own phone number, and it's a shared phone number. So whether it's you or your hiring team, you can all text the candidate from that number, and every text and the responses from the candidate, again, will go here to the timeline, and then everything will be logged here, so you can always like stay on top of exactly what's going on with the candidate. So love that, great candidate experience. And then, so kind of moving on, this is the collaboration piece. This is another thing that we heard all the time, is that the collaboration and the ease of use within Google Hire is excellent. And so that's something that folks want to make sure that they're continuing on whenever they switch platforms. And so the way that it works is you can @mention a member of your team. And you can say something like, you know, he looks good. What are your thoughts? And when you submit that comment, it's going to send an automated email right to Natalie's Google email. It's going to send a push notification to her phone. It's going to have a link directly to Bertrand's account profile here. And Natalie, she can respond right from her email, right from her phone, and that response will sync back into Workable here. So it's going back to that two-way email sync. And what's really great for hiring managers is they don't want to have to learn a brand new system. This should be an incredibly easy transition for them. And so 95% of what they do with Workable will be through their email and through their calendar. They very, very rarely have to log in. So it just makes this so much easier to roll out to your team. So love that. This is where your team will provide their feedback on a candidate during the interview. So it can be super simple like this, where they can just say like, you know, he's great. Or as Rachel had brought up, you can customize this by stage. You can have skills, competencies, behavioral questions. You can really build it out and customize it, which I know is something that we hear as a pain point for folks coming from GHire. So I love that. This is where you disqualify the candidate, and this is where you would move the candidate forward to the next stage. So could not be easier. We design it to be very quick, efficient, and really easy to learn too, as you think about rolling it out to your team. So now I do want to back up a little bit. Obviously, Rachel did spend a bit of time on the video interviews, and I know we're getting some questions around like, what's the response rate of these and how does it improve the candidate experience? So I did just want to dive a little bit deeper into those video interviews. So I wanted to give you a feel for what that looks like on the back end. Rachel showed how to create these video interviews, but this is what it looks like when a candidate would submit the interview. And of course, you can just press play, watch that from the back end. You can put in your notes here. So it's super, super easy. And then from a candidate side, this is what they're going to see. So you create those questions on the back end and send it off to the candidate. They get the email. When they click on it, they come to a page that looks like this. Now, as to the question earlier, every piece of this video interview for the candidate is designed to improve the response time and improve the percentage of candidates who actually complete these video interviews. So it's all about visibility, setting the expectations. So you're able to customize this intro. You can make videos. You can make it fun. You're able to, the candidate's able to see more information as to the job description and the expectations for that job. It's a lot of visibility, and so they know what to expect. They can see what topics they're going to be covering, how many questions there are, and exactly how much time it's going to take. So they can plan adequately for when to do this. Now, if they feel ready to go, they can jump right in, or what they can do is actually practice. And so that takes them to this page. Again, it's all around making the candidate feel at ease. So first thing it's going to do is it's going to check their camera, their microphone, check their internet connection. And we built this, and Michaelis from Google, our VP of product, built this to improve the candidate experience. If you think about the last time you interviewed for a company, I think about when I interviewed for Workable. That phone screen was a really stressful experience because I was having to break away from my previous job, take 45-minute laps around the block. I was pacing around the parking lot. I was in the stairwell scribbling down notes on the ground, and it just wasn't really best for me to put my best foot forward. And now, obviously with people working from home, they have dogs barking, they have kids running around, so they can do this at a time that works best for them, maybe outside of the traditional business hours typically. And so that's why it's so much better for the candidate side of things. I can see, hey, I have an excellent connection, so let's go ahead and start practice. So just like that, we can see the progress bar on the left-hand side. So again, visibility, so the candidate knows exactly what to expect. They can see the 2 questions, and I'm going to review, then I'm going to submit. So that's easy. Questions pop up in the chat bubble. So I know exactly what to expect. I know exactly how long my answer should be and how many takes I have. So when I'm ready, I can go ahead and click record. I'm a big fan of the Harry Potter series. I think it's really fun. Great book. Okay, perfect. So maybe I'm happy with that, or maybe I'm thinking, I'd like to take a more professional approach to this, maybe talk about some of the professional development books I've read recently. So for that, I can easily just retake it. I really like professional development type books. One book that I read recently that I really loved was Grit by Angela Duckworth. Really helpful book. I really liked the focus practice elements of the book and being able to pick one thing and practice it a lot and focus down and get better at a particular topic. Perfect. So just like that, maybe I'm happier with take 2. I can move on to the next question. And then what's really cool too is when I get to the review side, I'll be able to watch all of these takes one more time and select whichever take I think would be the best fit for me, and I can submit. So again, we're giving this away for free for all Google Hire clients that are coming over to Workable for 3 months. So it's a really great chance for you to be able to test this out and see how it works for your hiring strategies. So I also did, now that we're kind of talking about the candidate experience, part of this is going to be centered around the mobile side of things when thinking about the candidate experience. So let me actually, if you give me a second here, I'm going to join the meeting here from my phone. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my phone screen onto the computer screen so you can get a feel for what the candidate's going to see through a lot of this. Okay, so you should be able to see my phone screen at this point. So when thinking about the experience of candidates and also the experience of your hiring team, mobile is going to come to mind. And so the first thing I want to show you is actually Workable's native mobile app. So this is for you. This is for your hiring team. This is actually the second most adopted feature that we have in the whole platform. I think like 85% of Workable users leverage this mobile app. I know as a hiring manager myself, I use it for everything. And what's really great is it's totally native, Android and iOS. And so you just go to your app store, type in Workable and download the app, pop in your Workable credentials, and here you go. So when you're in, there's a lot of cool stuff here. In the upper right-hand corner, you can see any candidate that you've interviewed, but you still need to fill out the scorecard. Just below that, you can see any candidate that has emailed you, but you haven't responded. As a hiring manager, what I like to do is go ahead and go into my agenda at the beginning of the day, and I can pull up the candidate profile for the candidates I'll be interviewing. I can check out their scorecard. I can pull up their profile here in Workable, see how, catch up on where they're at in the process, read any of those text communications or emails. I can see any previous evaluations, and I can check out the resume and research them going into the call. So I can be super educated. And then I can also do a lot of other things too. I can email the candidate. I can send the text. I know I love sending the thank you text at the end of any interview. I can schedule an event, call the candidate. So super easy. And I can also access those scorecards. So this is great. I love using the mobile app for this. You can just go straight to the scorecard while it's fresh in your mind. You can give the candidate a score, and you can leverage the voice recognition on your phone to just speak in the notes. And for me, it's just super, super easy to do it that way. Another piece to this, when thinking about the candidate experience, would be what a lot of these things look like on their mobile. So we talked about the self-scheduling that connects with your Google Calendar. And so this is the email that the candidate might receive with that self-scheduling. From their phone, they're able to access your calendar directly. They're able to find a time that works for them, and they can confirm that time right here within the system. So they get that pop-up, everything's confirmed, and they can add it to their calendar with one click. One other thing is the offer letter. So this is something that goes back to the candidate experience, but not something that Google offers, is that we have our offer letters are all powered by HelloSign for e-signature. This is included in even the basic Workable packages. And what you're able to do is create these offer letters, and the candidate can read the offer letter there from their phone. They can sign electronically, and they can submit that offer with a couple of clicks from their phone. So ease of use, we've seen, is the #1 reason why clients like you come to Workable from Google Hire. And it's aside from the Google integration, it's thinking about ease of use for yourself, for your hiring managers, and also for the candidates. So with that, I'm going to pass things back off to Rachel. We can talk a little bit more about data migration and what implementation would look like.
Perfect. Thanks, Jeremy. I see in our Q&A box, we have a couple questions about this already. So hopefully this answers them, but everyone's wondering, when it comes to migrating from Google Hire, like, how do I bring my data over? Is that included? I'm just going to walk through quickly what you guys can expect implementation to look like with Workable. So first and foremost, your Workable account is live within 1 business day. It's usually faster than that once you decide that Workable is the best fit. What's going to happen next is you'll be introduced to your dedicated account manager at Workable. So you have a dedicated person who's there to help you with implementation, data transfer, training of the team, things like that. The one thing they're going to ask you to do to get started is to export your data from Google Hire. So It's really simple to do this. These are the instructions that Google Hire provides. You can find them on support.google.com, but you're just going to go into your account. You're going to hit export. Once you hit that button, your data is just going to pop into a little Excel spreadsheet that looks something like this. So Google's easy to work with. They use the industry standard format when it comes to transitioning data from one ATS to the next. All of your data is just going to be organized into these different columns. So you can see we have like candidate names, contact information, sources. We'll bring over resumes, feedback forms, absolutely everything that was attached to them in GHire. You give that to us and we take it from there. So we're going to do all the heavy lifting. We'll actually map everything over to the correct fields in Workable. And the idea is, while we're transferring your data, typically takes about 10 business days. You guys are going through implementation with your account manager. So when you're done implementing, you can hit the ground running and pick up right where you left off. Now, the implementation piece is very, very simple. So we like to break it down into 3 different phases. Typically, these happen over the course of 2 weeks, can be quicker, can also be slower if you guys are on summer vacation or anything like that. But as you can see, I think this timeline slide is my favorite. It's just a good visual in terms of what Workable is responsible for, what you guys are responsible for, and then of course, how long all those things are going to take to complete. The biggest kind of time consuming thing is creating your jobs in Workable. If you guys have maybe like less than 10 jobs, setting up Workable is probably going to take you 4 hours max of independent time. It's built to kind of, with a lot of best practices inside of it. It's kind of an out of the box solution. You guys will make a couple customizations. Your data will come over from Google Hire and you'll be good to go. So really simple. This guide breaks down everything that happens in the 3 different phases. So if you guys are interested in doing some stuff without your account manager, you have a very easy reference point of what exactly you're supposed to be doing to set this up. So it links directly to our support page. From here, there are videos. If you don't like videos, there are written out instructions on how to do absolutely everything by our fabulous support team. So help.workable.com is going to be a really great resource for you, for the team, and for candidates. We have 24/7 support for all of you. So the idea is, if you implement Workable, you're not the person that's fielding questions from your hiring managers, from candidates. Hopefully nobody has any issues, but if they do, this is completely searchable, tons of videos, articles of how to do everything in here, and then it links directly to our contact page. From here, you can see all the different ways that you can get in touch with our support team. Again, they're 24/7. If you want to chat us, call us, email us, the response time is like 18 seconds for phone and chat. So really easy to get any questions answered that you guys do have. I think that was everything that I wanted to share in terms of moving systems. Jeremy, anything that you would add there?
No, I think that covers it. I think it's just the feedback that we get, and that EI3 case study that Rachel shared at the top of the call really highlights it as well, is that it's a seamless transition. We do all the heavy lifting in terms of the data migration. You'll have a dedicated person helping you through every step of the way. We're going to do training for your team. And of course, the 24-hour support's awesome. So I think that pretty much covers it. I think that we could probably jump into questions here in the last 10 minutes that we have. Does that sound good, Rachel?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, cool. So I think there's a few that we haven't covered yet. So I'm going to go back up through this. And we had one question regarding the job boards that we integrate with. Do you want to go back to the job board page and kind of do a deep dive on those ones?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me just pull up my Workable account and I'll share my screen again. So we partner with over 200 job boards worldwide. Obviously, the ones that you guys are going to be able to post out to just depends on the location. In the United States, for example, there's 18 that we partner with in a free capacity. So under this Find Candidates tab is where you're going to find all the different job board partners. But when we take a look at them, pretty much across the board worldwide, we integrate with all the big ones like Indeed, LinkedIn, Google Jobs, Glassdoor, ZipRecruiter. Like I said, these will vary a little bit from location to location. Like India has specific ones, Europe has specific ones that yield better results. But it's as simple as just clicking this button, and you're casting that super wide net across all of our job board partners in that specific location.
Awesome. I think the other question that came up is around the reporting. I think folks want to know, can we do like the basic KPIs, like time to hire and what that looks like? I think this is a really good question, because that's one of the big things that we see for folks coming from Google Hire is they're looking for more robust reporting. So yeah, I think, could you maybe give a quick highlight of some of those reports?
Absolutely. So all of Workable's reports are going to be found in this little pie chart. So this is the report center. And these are set up generally the same way. I'm going to pop into candidate sources. This is a very popular one. So at the top, you'll see that you guys have complete control over customizations you want to make to these reports. If you're interested in a specific job, department, sub-department, you can pull these up. Location, time frame, very customizable. This will update. This one in particular is just going to show you where reviews are coming from, candidates, ultimately our hires. So you have visibility into, okay, how are all of those different job boards we just talked about performing? What about career site? Are we getting enough traction there? Do we need to do some more with SEO optimization? Employee referrals, agencies we've partnered with, sourcing techniques. So you have good visibility into what's working, what's not. You guys can pivot, put that time or money elsewhere. In addition to these customizations at the top, all of these reports can be exported into a CSV or a PDF. So if you guys want to build some pivot tables or you need to pop this into a PowerPoint for a presentation, it's just a click of a button. Another super popular one that I always like to point out is time to hire. So probably the biggest buzzword in recruitment, we want candidates yesterday. So how long is it taking us to actually make these hires in the system? We'll automatically break this down by role. Again, you can see the same customizations up here at the top. And then we actually take it a little further. We're going to show you the time to fill. So since this position was opened, how long is it taking you guys to fill it versus the time to hire, which relates more to the candidate's experience. Once a candidate gets in the pipeline, how long is it taking us to move them through? If something looks alarming, this one is used really well in conjunction with the hiring velocity report. So what I would do is, filter by the same elements up here, whatever I thought was a little bit too long in terms of the candidates portion. And now I have visibility into exactly how much time on average candidates are spending in each stage of my process. So in this example, I can see, there's 6 days between that last interview and the offer letter. That's not great. What do I think's going on here? Maybe my hiring managers aren't getting their feedback in quick enough. I can't get the offer letters out the next day. Probably losing some good candidates to competitors. Maybe I have lunch with them and I just show them how to use the mobile app to put their feedback in, something like that. So lots of good things in here. We cover all the basic ones that you'd expect. You have your, recruitment pipeline. And then of course you can get a bit more customized. The candidate breakdown report's one of my favorites. If you're looking specifically to pull in different data points, you can pull in whatever it is you want to know. In this example, like current salary, expected salary are things that we've added to candidate profiles as a company because we're interested in knowing them. So you guys really do have a lot of flexibility when it comes to customizing what you're reporting on.
Awesome. And I think the last question that we have here, and I want to thank everyone for their participation today, is, and Rachel, I'll let you take a stab at this one first. What's the biggest differentiator between Google Hire and Workable?
Good question. So I think we spent a lot of time highlighting similarities between Google Hire and Workable, right? They were both founded on the principle of just being really, really easy to use and intuitive for the team. Workable, I think, takes it a step further. In regards to recruitment, we're not just an applicant tracking system. We really focus on the importance of, hey, it's great that we can track, but we want to make sure that you have candidates to track. So our big focus has always been on the find piece when it comes to recruitment. That means, we connect to more job boards worldwide. We have that referrals portal. You can collaborate with agencies. We have that built-in sourcing tool, that connection with LinkedIn recruiters. So just tons and tons of different tools to help you with minimal clicks, minimal effort, just cast the widest net possible. In addition to that, I think efficiency has become another big thing that, especially, as we've been talking about in light of COVID, people are getting a lot of applicants. And when it comes to efficiently screening them, Workable has put a lot of thought into how we can do that with things like video interviews and texting and getting people through the door quickly and completing tasks quickly and getting an accurate snapshot of candidates in the system and centralizing everything in one place. Jeremy, do you have anything specific to add?
No, I think that's all really good. I think what I would say is that there are a ton of similarities between the two systems. I think of Workable as just Google Hire's big brother in a way, because it does a lot of the same things. It just takes it a step further. It's a bit more scalable. And so like a lot of the clients that we talk to, they don't want to have to do this again in terms of replacing their ATS. They want to find their next system and stay with them as they continue to grow. And I think Workable, you know, we've been doing this since 2012. We have 125 software engineers. We have 90 million in funding, and we've dedicated to making, you know, the best possible recruitment software there is. So a lot of the things that we focused on today, like the more robust reporting, the texting, the video interviews, you know, it's all the things that folks will need as they continue to scale. And so, you know, with our, especially with our support, we have a 96% retention rate. So for folks that choose Workable, they end up staying with us a long time. And so, so yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of similarities. It's just kind of like that next evolution in terms of scalability.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, well, cool. I think we've answered everyone's questions. We've covered a lot of ground today. I just wanted to thank everyone for their time. It was really a pleasure having you. And, you know, I think a few folks had said that they wanted to follow up with a bit more in-depth demonstration where we can take a deep dive into more of the functionality. So we'll be reaching out to get that scheduled. And then, yeah, thanks again for your time, and we'll hopefully talk soon.
Yeah, absolutely. This was a pleasure. And please don't hesitate to reach out to us if you guys have any other questions that we can help with.